Over now to Mongolia, and the people go to the polls today in a presidential election that will see its current leader challenged by not only the country's first female candidate, but also a former professional wrestler. In recent years, Mongolia has seen stellar economic growth driven by a mining boom, but has that newfound wealth been fairly distributed? Sarah Sai now by Travis Hamilton, Managing Director at Khan Investment Management. His company has investments in Mongolia. Travis, thank you so much for joining us. In that report, we're still seeing people not feeling the effects of the mining boom. You've been there many times as an investor. What is the sentiment right now ahead of the elections?
Look, I think on the back of recent political and legislative progress, we're seeing a renewed optimism, and Mongolia has a very bright future. But the fact is that today the government is not yet receiving significant tax revenues from investment that has been going into the mining sector.
Why not?
Because these very large mining projects are yet to produce. Fortunately, we're going to see one of the world's largest copper mines begin production imminently, and it's only when these very large mining projects are actually in full production will the government start to generate tax revenues, and then it will be able to assist and distribute that wealth across the country.
How important, Travis, is Mongolia's president in setting economic policy?
Well, the president in Mongolia doesn't have a huge amount of executive capacity. That really rests with the prime minister and with the cabinet. However, politically, the incumbent President Elbegdorj is very powerful within the Democratic Party. And I think at the moment, all indicators point to a re-election for President Elbegdorj. This would be his second and legacy term. And we believe that that will be based on stability and economic growth.
But during his term, we've seen an increase in resource nationalism in Mongolia. Could this impact foreign investments, which is a key economic driver of growth, if he remains president?
I actually think that resource nationalism in Mongolia has largely been promoted. It's a false truth. The fact is that the president believes that the best way for Mongolia and Mongolians to accumulate wealth and participate in this growth is through participation in the capital markets, as opposed to government ownership of assets.
And briefly, before we let you go, Mongolia's economy is largely dependent on China. How are they being impacted by the slowdown in the mainland?
I don't think it's going to have a very significant impact. The fact is that Mongolia will deliver comparable resources to China at vastly cheaper input prices than China can acquire them from elsewhere.
Travis Hamilton from Khan Investment Management, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us.